Good day, fantasy followers, all followers of the Fantasy Flyer. My name is Derek. We are back. It is episode 22.
Double deuce.
Double deuce. My name is Derek. I'm sitting in my fantasy pad, which is still my living room. It's the same thing it's been. We'll get an actual pad eventually. But Taylor, how you doing today? How's it going in your? It's not our week 11, but it's almost our week 11. How are you hanging there? You doing good?
Yeah, starting off solid in a couple of leagues. I'm really only looking to move forward in honestly probably one league. Kind of written my other teams off. It's fine. That's why we do multiple.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, that's the entire reason you do multiple is because you have to find victory in one and give away the others and let it kind of go.
Yeah, you gotta hedge a few things, and yeah, you can't go. All your teams should not be the same.
No, that's for sure. Because if they're all the same, you're going to have the same result. As I just mentioned, it is now we're going to be going into week 11. This is episode 22. We have a lot lined up. Real quick, just a preview. If you're paying attention, we will have a video going up on Tuesday. It will not be filmed Monday or Tuesday. It's going to actually get filmed on Sunday, but that is the Thanksgiving special. We're going to go over the 3 games on Thursday. Almost forgot what day Thanksgiving was. That's bad. It's the same day every year. And we're also going to have a little bit of a surprise, our way too early mock draft for next year's incoming rookie class. We're going to probably go through 20 to 24 picks and give you where we probably rank them. I don't think there's any real reason to take it too seriously, but we kind of want to go after it and see where, especially because we're in a dynasty league.
Right.
Why the heck not? Next Friday will be a week from tonight. We will be filming our leftover show that will go up next Saturday, the 26th. It will go up onto YouTube. That is going to have a little bit more of the fantasy playoffs. We're getting down to fantasy playoff. It's the crunch time show, aka the leftover show. So when you are full of turkey and other fixings, please come and watch us. And like anything else, fall asleep to it because that's what happens when I get full from turkey on Thanksgiving. So yeah, we're gonna go over a lot more of the fantasy playoffs. What you can do, ins, outs, who you should be targeting based on schedules, which will also matter. Weeks 14 through 17 will probably be factored in, I'd say 50% more than they normally are. So tune into that. But as usual, we're going to start off with the 9 on this episode 22. Taylor, Mr. Guru of the 9, I pass it along to you.
Thank you, sir. Reminder, teams on bye: Jacksonville Jaguars, Miami Dolphins, Seattle Seahawks, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As usual, going through in alphabetical order. Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins, hamstring. He's questionable, was limited in practice on Friday after sitting out on Thursday, so he's trending in the right direction. Unfortunately, Kyler Murray's hamstring injury, he's also questionable, and they still have him sort of as a game time decision. But apparently he was a limited participant in Friday's practice. So I don't remember how last week went, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't want to speculate on that. Keep an eye on him. I guess I would say Colt McCoy, the backup, was perfectly serviceable, and I don't see the receivers taking a big hit. And then a reminder, Zach Ertz with his knee injury is out and will miss the remainder of the season. We mentioned Trey McBride, the rookie, as someone to look at there. With Baltimore, Gus Edwards, hamstring and knee. He's questionable and was limited in practice all week. Mark Andrews with his shoulder injury, he is listed as questionable. It was reported that he was a full participant in Friday's practice, so that's good news. And hopefully he plays, but obviously he is one of their star players, so they may be cautious with him. Lamar Jackson had an illness and missed practice on Friday, but it's expected that he will be well enough to play. Chicago, Khalil Herbert. On Tuesday, we mentioned that he had the hip injury, and I think that we said, let me check. Yeah, we said he was questionable. Well, it is now official that he has been placed on IR. It's hopeful that he will not have any sort of season-ending surgery. So in the 4 weeks after the IR time frame, he should be eligible and hopefully will come off of IR. N'Keal Harry illness, he's out this upcoming game. Cincinnati, Jamar Chase with his hip injury is still out. Cleveland, David Njoku with his ankle injury is listed as questionable. I want to note that he's been listed as questionable sort of coming into this point of every week. So take this with a grain of salt. He himself is optimistic about his chances, but yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Keep an eye on it. I'm not sure how much I'm really banking on it personally. Dallas, Zeke with his knee injury is listed as questionable and was a limited participant all week. McCarthy and Jerry Jones said on Friday that they expect him to play, so that's good news. Denver, Jerry Jeudy with his ankle injury. I think we said that he was questionable. Yeah, he was questionable earlier in the week. He is now.
He was.
Yeah, indeed. He is now listed as out. And this is sort of, I don't want to, I won't say it verbatim, but the hope is that he will be back in week 12. And then some of the other players that we have listed here, KJ Hamler, who is also out. Cortland Sutton, obviously the biggest benefactor. Kendall Hilton is questionable, so keep an eye on that. And then Jalen Virgil and Montrell Washington will probably be in the mix. I don't know if they'll pull somebody up from the practice squad, but Hinton, Virgil, Washington. I don't know that I'm. Go ahead.
They're probably going to have to, because it looks like those are the only names. Okay, so Hinton is listed under ESPN as questionable. If you rule him out, it's only Sutton, Virgil, and Washington. There's no one else in their depth chart, so they have to bring somebody up.
Yeah.
Either that, or you're actually going to see like Chase Edmonds line up as a wide receiver like 17 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, beyond Sutton and Dulcich, I don't know that I really want one of these receiving options. I mean, if you're desperate, Virgil had a touchdown last week. I mean, the problem with Denver is they're not a high scoring offense right now. So no matter what you do, you're not really going to get a lot out of anybody. So Sutton and Dulcich is really where I would.
If Hinton plays, play him.
Yeah.
He had 96% snap, led the team last week.
But
Hinton
I mean,
Hinton is number one.
How was his fantasy day?
That's you get your fantasy day is very decreased. Also by personal fact, they're going to have to throw the ball at this one. If your fantasy day decreases if you play 30% of snaps.
Yeah, for sure.
Like five times out of 6, you were going to see a lesser fantasy day. So Virgil had the touchdown on 30% of snaps, but Hinton had 96% and ran routes on 75% of snaps.
Mm-hmm. Looks like he had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 62 yards. Half point PPR, he had 8.2 points. So not horrendous. I guess that sort of puts him in like flex territory.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Moving on to Detroit, Josh Reynolds with his back injury is listed as questionable. He's sort of had off and on practice apparently, or limited practices throughout the week, but sat out Friday. So whether or not that was a rest day, I'm kind of leaning towards him not trending in the right direction. So if you were hoping to have him back because your team's hurting, you might want to look elsewhere. Indianapolis, Jelani Woods, the rookie tight end with his shoulder injury, is listed as out. We sort of talked about Mo Alley-Cox and how he's had a lot of the snaps, but not getting a lot of usage in the receiving capacity. Who was the other tight end we talked about there that sort of benefited?
I'm sorry, which team? I was
Indianapolis.
Oh, Kalen
Granson.
Granson.
Yes, Kylan Granson. Yep.
Kylan Granson.
I guess he would be the option that, I mean, he only had 46% snaps, but he is getting
Gets the
actual
targets.
looks, right?
Mhm.
So, not a bad possible option if you need to look somewhere, especially with Jelani Woods out. Kansas City, Juju Smith-Schuster, concussion protocols. He is out. Mecole Hardman with his abdomen injury was placed on IR. It doesn't appear to be season ending, so they're hoping to have him back. What is it? Probably like week 16-ish. Devontae Adams, also an abdomen injury, is listed as questionable, but was a limited participant all week. So I think he was also on the injury report last week. So I would imagine he would be out there. The Chargers. This is some good news. Keenan Allen, with his hamstring injury, logged a full practice on Friday. And Allen indicated that he was able to run full speed, and he said this week, so it seems like throughout the week, and that he felt his usual explosiveness in the process. So as opposed to, what was it? I don't remember when their bye week was, but the week before the bye week, he didn't want to play, and they had him play to sort of test things out, and he said himself he didn't feel explosive. So this is obviously very good news, and seems like it's trending towards him playing. So that's great for the Chargers, and Herbert. So we may see some big things this week, hopefully. Mike Williams also questionable with his ankle injury, but logged a full practice on Friday, and I didn't really see anything sort of coach wise, but Williams himself said he feels good to go. I mean, always take player comments with a grain of salt, but looks like they may have their top two options. Sorry to anybody who needed Josh Palmer. Rams staff, they didn't really have too much, but we just wanted to note that the Stafford concussion stuff, he is not on the injury report, so he should be playing. New England coming back off of bye. Devontae Parker, who I believe sat out before the bye or went out of that game with a knee injury, he's listed as questionable and was a limited participant in practice all week. New Orleans, Mark Ingram with his knee injury continues to be out. They signed David Johnson to the practice squad. I'm not sure. They may. I'm trying to think of who else.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Yeah, right.
Sorry, David Johnson. I had David Johnson last year. Do not stash him in any roster in any league ever.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you're ever going to really play him is if Kamara's out, and even then, like when he was the lead back in Houston, he wasn't doing too
Tony
much.
Davis. So. Tony Davis. It's going to be more Tony Davis.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if they're going to call him up from the practice squad, but I don't know. That would be super deep leagues. And even then, I don't know that I'd recommend it. New York Giants, just an update from Tuesday's show. We had mentioned that Daniel Bellinger was questionable. He is now listed as out. Wan'Dale Robinson with his hamstring injury is listed as questionable, sat out practice on Thursday, but on Friday, Dable said he's trending in the right direction. I'm not really sure what that means. It didn't talk about his Friday's practice, so I guess it's good for the coach to be saying he's trending in the right direction, but the fact that he sat out on Thursday and I didn't read anything about whether he practiced or not on Friday is kind of funky. And then San Francisco, Debo is not on the injury report. So that's obviously good news, but the unfortunate news is we've talked about this. Jimmy G, not hyper focusing, but favors Ayuk. And is not the prolific passer that is going to support a lot of people. So I think Ayuk is relatively safe with Jimmy in terms of production. And then you have Debo, McCaffrey, Wilson, Kittle, that more so in terms of passing game, Debo and Kittle are going to either one's going to go off or they're both going to be kind of tempered, and I don't know, McCaffrey or Wilson, who are both pass catching running backs, might go off as well. So yeah, I don't really know what to say there, but at least he's healthy.
All right. Looks like that's the end of the 9.
It is.
Another Friday 9 that is a little longer as usual. Want to get you ready for all of the games. We're going to do a quick segment that we didn't get a chance to do on Tuesday. It is our 4 down segment. I still have my same ones from Tuesday. I'm a pad. You have yours?
I do.
That's good. Everybody brought their homework. You want to go first? You want to go second?
Why don't you go?
All right. You want me to read yours? All right. Down number 1. If you haven't played 4 downs before with us before, I don't know why I said before again. I'll say before. We're going to read 4 statements. The other host is going to rank them from least to most likely or most to least likely. As long as they're in a coherent order, we don't care. Down number 1. Allen Robinson is a top 20 wide receiver from now until the end of the season. Down number 2. Jonathan Taylor is a top 5 running back through the end of the season. Down number 3. Trey McBride is a top 7 tight end through end of season. And down number 4, Rashad White is a top 30 running back through end of season. So Robinson top 20, JT top 5, McBride top 7, White top 30.
All right.
I'll get your answers on the buzzer now.
Let's see here. I think so. I will go most likely. I feel like top 30 is I won't say easily accomplishable, but I think that gives Rashad White more sort of breathing room, if you will. So I'm going to go most likely Rashad White top 30 RB through the end of the season. Followed by, this is where it gets tough. I'll go JT top 5 as my second most likely through the end of the season.
All right.
And then simply by the fact that I think A-Rob and the Rams are crap, and without Cooper Kupp, they're just going to suffer even more. That's my least likely. Therefore, Trey McBride is my third most likely as a top 7 tight end through the end of the season.
Love it. Love it. There's so many dual RB teams right now because of it. Like Rashad White as a top 30 was almost a softball because it really is. Like unless Leonard Fournette really picks it up, there's nothing that Rashad White doesn't offer that team that Fournette does, and he doesn't. So JT is a top 5. It's kind of on the other side of that argument because of how many people that are still top 5 worthy or top 5 running backs. But again, McBride being a top 7 tight end in that pass game with limited experience, and then Allen Robinson as a top 20 that was almost a softball too. So I should have swapped. I should have said top 30 for him and top 20 for Rashad. That would have been tough.
Yes,
but I like that a lot. So now time for your 4 downs.
All right. So I don't know what my theme was here, but anyways, Brady and the Bucks make the playoffs.
Okay.
Down number 2, 49ers, who are 5-4, finish ahead of the Seattle Seahawks, who are 6-4 in the NFC West.
Okay.
Vikings finish with a better record than the Eagles.
Okay.
Patriots, who are 5-4, finish ahead of the Jets, who are 6-3 in the AFC East.
Okay. So Bucks finish.
Bucks make the playoffs.
Bucks make the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. So basically, they have to win the division.
Pretty much, yeah. Which they are in first, I believe.
They are.
Yeah.
Jets have a better beat the Patriots, which they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
The
well, sorry, no, I have the Patriots finishing ahead of the Jets.
Patriots beat the Jets. Okay. Yeah. But the Jets are ahead right now. 49ers beating the Seahawks. and the Vikings having a better record than the Eagles.
Mhm.
I have those correct?
Yep.
So the Buccaneers schedule for the rest of the season includes Browns, Saints, 49ers, Bengals, Cardinals, Panthers. To me, this all comes down to the schedule. Like, I imagine the Vikings, because of who they've played, probably have the easiest schedule after the Cowboys, anyway. Patriots, Jets, Lions, Colts, Giants. Yeah, basically. Oh, but then they finish off Packers, Bears. Okay. And then you said that, man, the Patriots. I like that too. The Patriots schedule. I hate that you did that. They have Jets, Vikings, Bills, Cardinals, Raiders, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills. Okay. So Patriots finishing ahead of the Jets is least likely. Bengals, Bills, Dolphins, Vikings, and Bills again. Yeah, that's going to be a tough call. That's going to be a tall task. So that's my least likely because their schedule from here on out looks absolutely atrociously difficult.
Do you look at the Jet
Um,
schedule?
That's what I'm going on to next. But the
Okay.
Jets have already played the Bills, I believe, twice.
No, they still have one left.
They still have one left.
So they
Let's
only
see here.
played them once.
Vikings. Oh, excuse me. So Jets, Patriots. Then it's Bears, Vikings, Bills, Lions, Jaguars. Below the rest of it, Seahawks, Dolphins. That's not easy either. Damn. But I count an extra win for the Jets there over the Patriots,
Because of
and
okay,
not including the. I think the Patriots win this weekend against the Jets.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely tight, but yeah, it could go either way.
Right. So I'm gonna say, and then the 49ers over the Seahawks, which I'm not even gonna look at both of those because I think the 49ers is just a better team, and they have to play each other at least once, right?
Pretty sure, yeah.
That's all I want to check. I don't want to care about that. Yep, they play each other once. And I think the 49ers will win that. Because the 49ers destroyed them in the first game, and that was without Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, I'm going to go 49ers finishing ahead of the Seahawks is first. Tampa Bay making the playoffs second. Vikings ahead of Eagles third. Patriots ahead of Jets fourth.
Yeah. I mean, these were all pretty. Honestly, maybe the Vikings finishing the Eagles. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
tough, but the Eagles have an easy schedule from here out. They play Dallas and the Giants twice, and that's like their toughest opponent. So I think that the Vikings have to march through a lot of decent teams. They have to they have to battle the Jets still. I thought it got easier after the Cowboys. I was wrong.
Yeah, no, I like that ordering. I think I don't know. Yeah, obviously I might change one or two things around. Obviously, because I'm a Patriots fan, I might put that above. But
yeah, you're kind of like with the Jonathan Taylor one. You're really hoping on that one. The Patriots could do that. Like like I said, the big thing for them is they win this weekend.
Yeah.
They need to do what they did last time against the Jets. And if they do that, that's a very good start. Because there are a couple games they could surprise some folks with. There's just too many big offenses in their future.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see them competing with the Bills. There's two L's. That's just even now with the Bills all of a sudden seeming lost at sea in some sort. It's just my take on it.
Yeah.
Will I be proven wrong? Could be. The Bills could end up being like they could be 10-7 when this is all done, or 10-7. Like, it could be so. Like, Patriots could take both. I don't know. That would be so bad. They'd still probably make the playoffs too, which is. But another good game of 4 downs. I like that. That was a good one. That was a juicy one. Real quick, we'll go over the Thursday night football review. I watched a good, not even kind of the first half of this game because I was waiting for my bet to go south, and it did. By halftime. So I watched the first half, and it didn't look like it changed a whole lot in the second half. It kind of looked like things copy pasted, like that was about it. Yeah, the Packers looked like they were struggling on offense and punting a lot, and then they would catch a couple breaks and then they'd give it away. That's about like they had a really bad. The score before halftime was a bad punt. I don't know if it was the wind. I don't know if it was cold.
Mm.
I don't. It was a bad punt.
They
Like
didn't even
I know
get
they were
past
punting.
half field, right?
Yeah, it got to like the Packers punted from their end zone to like the 42, their own
Yeah.
42.
Right.
I'm like, you take 2 runs with Derrick Henry and they're going to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
So I was like, and they ended up scoring the touchdown, which whatever. They had 2 minutes and then they left Aaron Rodgers with 30 seconds and they were down at halftime. It wasn't looking good. I don't know what happened with the Cowboys. I know they're 2 separate teams. This did not look like a Packers team that was like really invested in this game. I don't know why. And somehow Ryan Tannehill threw for like 7 miles, which it's like blows my mind. I believe this is his highest yardage for the year at 333 yards.
Yeah, I think so.
22 for 27. Like, yeah, like you're. If it wasn't for his interception, he'd be in the 130s or 140s for completion percentage, or not completion percentage, QB rating.
Okay, yeah.
You can't have 140% completion percentage. That's not how that works. He was 17 for 13.
I knew what you meant.
Henry, 28 carries, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. For a team like the Packers, which was ranked very poorly in rush defense going into last week against the Cowboys, they've done very well in maintaining a rush defense. Henry also 2 catches on 2 targets for 45 yards. He threw for a touchdown because why not? Treylon Burks, 7 catches for 8 targets, 111 yards on 8 targets for 111 yards. Robert Woods had 7 targets, 6 catches, 69 yards. With the reemergence of Burks, you need a game like this for Woods to matter, I think. Like even in PPR formats, he had 13 points and he doesn't catch a couple of those or it's not for 15 yards at times, then he becomes a stinker. So hence why I dropped him. I dropped him in our Dynasty League. Big beneficiary, Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
At Derrick Henry's touchdown pass and had one of Tannehill's. He was 4 for 4, 36 yards, 2 touchdowns. I would have won my bet if they didn't go over 19.5 points in the first half, which that touchdown screwed me on. So actually, I shouldn't say it was the touchdown. It was the field or is the point after because it was 14-6.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, one of the touchdowns to Hooper, Tannehill like fired it right, like 2.
That's perfect.
Yeah, 2 backs coming in around Hooper, and he fired it right in there. And everybody thought he didn't hold on to it going down, and so they thought it wasn't a catch. But then the Packers tried to run away with it as if it was fumble. But anyways, it was an awesome play, awesome throw all around. Like Hooper held on to it, went all the way down with it. It was that was a beautiful touchdown, and like nobody knew what happened.
Yeah, no. Yeah, after last week's, was it Nakeem? Yeah. Westbrook Akina.
Yes.
Keep screwing up his name. Nick Westbrook Akina.
Yes.
After his game last week, now Hooper's. It seems like they're moving red zone. Well, it's not even red zone because Nick Akina's one of his last week was for 50-some yards, but they're moving targets around to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is like looking at the names here. These are the most talented people on this team, and these are the players that they should be utilizing. So I don't know if this is something that will continue moving forward. I personally feel like they should continue to do this, but who knows? I mean, obviously you can't use the same exact game plan every time. So yeah, they should mix it up a little bit, but like these guys should be involved if they want to win games.
Yeah, Hooper is a better tight end than what we've seen from that team because he can't control where the ball gets thrown. Can only catch it if it's thrown at him. So
yeah.
For Green Bay, Rodgers 24 for 39, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones 12 carries, 47 yards, 6 catches on 7 targets for 20 yards, had a 2-point conversion. AJ Dillon is not good anymore. 6 carries, 13 yards, 1 catch on a target for 10 yards. Randall Cobb 6 for 6, 73 yards. Alan Lazard, 11 catches, 5 touchdowns, 5 catches on 11 targets, 57 yards.
There we go.
That's, yeah. Christian Watson, 4 catches on 6 targets, 48 yards. He had 2 touchdowns again. He should have been rostered by now.
Yeah.
So there's bad news if he's not rostered, and that's that the other 9 people in your league aren't playing.
Right. Was it in the first half? So you only watched the first half. Did you see the touchdown one of the touchdowns that he got? Yeah, I guess there was only 2 touchdowns. So yeah, you must have seen the one that was on the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was A, smart by Rodgers, and B, a beautiful catch. Just high pointing it like that.
He's
very talented.
Yeah, and this is what we wanted week 1 through 7.
Right.
And now you can officially say he's a top 30 or 40 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Especially he has more touchdowns in the last 5, well now 6 days because today's Friday. He has more touchdowns in the last 6 days than DJ Moore has in any season of his. So
yeah,
just want to let you know that.
Yeah, no,
So.
Rodgers seems to be starting to trust him, which is awesome. He needs another weapon out there. He was very happy to have Cobb back, obviously. So Cobb, Lazard, Watson, that's not a terrible wide receiving core. They just need to all get on the same page and start getting more reps with each other.
It's going to get better when they sign OBJ. That's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen at all. Just an FYI. I think that's pretty. That one's pretty shot.
Yeah, I mean, OBJ would. I don't think they're in the top list, but he would want to go to a team that has the opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl, and that is not the Packers.
No. But yeah, that was all in all a really good game by the Titans. They continue to slowly, they're 6-3, like other 6-3 teams
7-3 now.
7-3. Well, okay, they were 6-3 before.
They were, yeah.
So the other 6-3 teams going into this game would, Cowboys, Bills, Titans are one of those grind 'em teams, and it's just working for them. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way they play football, and Derrick Henry helps them.
Yeah, he had one run that. What was his long? That's not right.
No, it probably is
9. That's not right. Oh, was it a catch? He must have been a catch for 42
Let's say he had
yards.
45 in the air. Yeah, he did. His running was not they clogged the middle. 28 carries and 87 yards is not a good. It's not Derrick Henry-esque.
No, I thought he broke a long one off. It must have been the catch. Anyways, yeah, I thought the Packers had opportunities late in the game to come back, and they just kept flubbing it. They had an interception and they got the ball back, and they stopped the Titans, who were in their half of the field, the Packers half of the field. And then I don't know, I just felt like Rodgers kept trying to make these big bomb throws, and it was
he tried to do what normally wouldn't have worked, but he tried to do what worked last week against Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know why he was forcing it.
He didn't work the ball.
Start a drive. Get a drive going.
Get 2 first downs.
Right.
It didn't really work out for him. So Packers are on the edge of playoff elimination because the Vikings are the best team in football over the last 3 weeks, and the Packers are trying to hang on to relevancy. Titans still, did I say that right? I may not have. If I didn't, oh well. Titans are doing pretty good in their closest competition is the Colts, and the Colts have a very tough task this week, which we will talk about shortly. So, apologies to all you Packers fans. It may be a very short year for you. We're going to take our first break here. We're going to come back. We're going to go right into the Week 11 preview. I'm basically going to read what I wrote because I did some really good research on a lot of these games. Then I'm going to let Taylor talk, and we're going to go about it. I'm going to get a drink while we're at the water cooler. Anything else from you, Taylor? You want to just sign them off?
Let's sign it off.
Let's
see you on the flip.
Hit it. Welcome to part 2 of the Fantasy Flyer. Yeah, Taylor likes it when I do that. Just kind of lead in with
gets me off guard.
I sound like Donnie from the Wild Thornberrys.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly who it is. If you don't know who Donnie from the Wild Thornberry is and you're watching this video, open up YouTube, type it in, watch the 14-second clip that pops up at first, and you will love life. We're going to start our Week 11 preview. I think I said review before we left. Doesn't matter. It's a preview. You should know that if you're watching the show. We're going to start off with the 1 p.m. games, of course. Bears 3-7 at the Falcons 4-6. The Bears are 3-point favorites in Atlanta. The over-under is 49, and it is the first of our host v host games.
Let's get ready to
Oh shit!
Little different.
Nice.
Switching it up again. We talked about David Buffer. I think his name's David Buffer. I could be wrong. Anyway, but we talked about it before, and I found it while we were on break. So
Nice.
these are two teams, the Bears and the Falcons, that love to run the ball.
Michael Buffer. Sorry.
Michael Buffer. There it
There
is.
we go.
See? I thought I was wrong. These are two teams that love to run the ball. Like, let's just be honest. Like, they don't pass as much as they probably should. The Bears are on a small uptick with passing because of the introduction of Chase Claypool. We've seen that. Cole Kmet has seen several targets. Mooney's more available. Obviously, Claypool. It's actually a pretty efficient offense now. There's that E word that I hardly used on Tuesday's show, so I can feel comfortable using it now. For the Falcons, Tyler Algier has been seeing more snaps than Cordell Patterson since his return 2 weeks ago. I think this continues. Do you think it does? He saw 48% last week to Patterson's 38. His return week, they both saw 38, 39%. Your opinion?
I'm a little undecided still. I don't know that Algier is the better option. Like, he's not more efficient with it, so I'm not sure why that's the case. Patterson, in my opinion, is the better option, so I don't really know why it's happening in this manner. So I guess short answer is no, I don't think it's going to continue this way, but
Are they really not? Is he really not as efficient?
So I have last week Patterson 3.6 per carry and Algier 2.5.
Okay.
Previous week it was a different story. Algier was 9.9 per carry, and
Versus
Patterson was 3.38.
So Patterson's a little more, but you can get a little more juice from Algier, maybe.
Yeah, obviously the younger guy, maybe a little more explosive.
Yeah, and Patterson really is a 50. He should be a split wide receiver. So I'm thinking it's one of the things where, like, could he run it, or could he be something like a pass catcher out of the backfield, or still be a wide receiver at some point? So
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't try to get them both out there at the same time, or at least they
yeah,
should.
that's especially against this Bears defense, which seems to be finding its identity once again without Robert Quinn and I can't remember his name again. I did this on like 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago when the trade happened. I feel so bad. For the Bears, Montgomery is going to see an uptick. David Montgomery, no Khalil Herbert, like we talked about. It's not going to be massive because we know that Fields is still the primary runner for Chicago. But the reality of the situation is these two teams have weaknesses that the other, well, they probably should try and attack. Atlanta is 31st versus passing offenses. They're just bad. Chicago's 30th versus run offenses. They're also bad. And Atlanta allows an average of 95.5 passer rating. Both teams allow 25 points per game to the opposition on an average basis. I am not afraid to take the over on this one, so I'm going to. I think Chicago wins this game, and I think it's more by more than 3 points. So I'm going 32-25.
I have
Chicago.
Yeah. I did not go over, but I do have a larger gap than 3 points in favor of Chicago. I have the Bears 27, Falcons 18.
That's funny because the very first guess before I looked up to the 25 point when I was writing this earlier today, my first was 29-18. That's funny. Okay, yeah. And then I was like, they both allow 25 points because the defenses are bad.
Yeah.
Start Montgomery, of course. There's no reason not to. He's going to have at least an extra, I'd say 6 to 8 carries.
Mhm.
Chase Claypool, fire him up. Cole Kmet, who's been tight end 2 for the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I'll take me some of that. I like Patterson in this matchup over Algier. I feel it's a little bit, especially with how spread the defense can be. I feel like that Patterson will have a better chance than Algier here. I'm going to sit Drake London, and that's a probable gamble. Sitting is a rough word for me when it comes to Drake London. You can also probably sit Kyle Pitts, but I think Pitts has a better chance against this Bears defense than London does, because he's probably going to be saddled with Jaquan Brisker, aka the Brisker Biscuit, who's been very good as a cornerback / safety this year. So
Yeah, I guess I
anything
would
else
say
for you
in
on this one?
regards to London, he had a good week last week. I also am still not ready to play him, but if you can take him on, it may be worth a stash.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and you just like, I mean, see if he can do it this week, and if he does, then it may be. I mean, Washington is the following week, and they're a much better defense. But if they're starting to make him part of the game plan again, that could
Yeah,
be worth it moving into the
bouncing back.
playoffs.
I mean,
Yeah.
looking at the rest of the team. So just to give it, so they play the Commanders next week 12. After that, Steelers, Saints, Ravens, Cardinals.
Right.
All bottom 8 teams against wide receivers. Steelers give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers out of anybody. The Ravens give up the most yards. So it's a good time to try and pick up on that Drake London value. I agree with that. Next up, Bills 6-3 at the Browns, and neither one are really, or no, the Browns would be at the Bills. Excuse me. It wouldn't matter because they're both playing in Detroit.
Yeah.
Because there's 7 feet of snow about 300 miles that way from where I am right now. Yeah, a lot, and there's no snow here. Just in case you're curious, literally none. You go that you can't play football that way, but here I could go outside and play golf. Yeah, I see no home field advantage as being kind of moot. I don't really.
Yeah.
Honestly, if anything, Cleveland gets fans. They get more fans in the building than I think, because Buffalo's going to have to, and then
Yeah, and Cleveland will have an easier time getting to Detroit, whereas Buffalo, like if they continue to get more snow, like what are they? I don't know. Are some players not gonna be able to get to the airport? Or are they not gonna? Obviously,
I imagine they're probably already in Detroit, like as of now.
Yeah, I guess.
Because they would have had to get the hell as soon as that's why the NFL called it so early, was so you can get the hell out, because if you don't get out, you're not going to make it.
Right. And I guess that's
So.
sort of, I haven't looked into, but I was thinking at the time when this first came out, and you're right, at this point they should already be there, but like what alternatives do they have if Buffalo has a hard time getting out of there, which I haven't looked into. But yeah, that's a good point. They should already be there.
You probably would have heard about it by now, as
Exactly.
there's a lot of snow there already.
Yeah.
I would say it levels the playing field a little bit more because of the, like I said, the difference in home field, but it's a safe choice for both teams. Bills allow the 3rd least points per game. That's an important stat. The Browns don't score a whole hell of a lot of points. They're not 40-point guys. 210 passing yards and 109 rushing yards per game that the Bills allow. Cleveland averages 158 per game and 217. So basically looks like the Bills have it's almost like if you said if they hit a bar offensively, they'll probably eclipse whatever the Browns can put up. Their big challenge, however, is holding that man, Mr. Chubb, who is probably biting at the bone, or gnawing at the bone, because Saquon overtook him last week in the rushing leader, number 1 yards.
I had not realized that.
Yeah. Let Diggs go, let Chubb go, let them feast. The Browns just gave up a truck ton of yards to the Dolphins. They'll probably do it again to both Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. Bills need bounce back win. They can't, it's a huge hit to their confidence if they lose 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it that way. They need the bounce back win in bad. For the Bills, you wrote a Tremaine Edmonds and Tre'Davious White are both out. Defensive hit, but that to me that screams more Nick Chubb go than anybody else because of Edmonds. White, we've seen as this in the secondary, they can still do decent against wide receivers, and there's really only you got to cover Cooper, and that's everything else will kind of fall into place. DPJ will get his targets, but without Njoku there,
right,
if he doesn't play, it becomes a little easier for even a beat up secondary for the Bills. My start is Singletary. Cleveland allows 23 fantasy points to the running back. So last week he had, let's count the points, 6, 12, 17.
Something like that. I was gonna say 18. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. The Knox and Bryant combination. This is not a tight end game. Both teams are top 10 in defending the tight ends. So Dawson Knox would obviously, if you had to choose between the two, Knox would be the go-to. But I don't like either one. So anything else for this from you? I got the Bills by probably 10 points. I don't see. And again, I said, how many times have I said that? I don't see this being, and then they go out and lose to the Jets. So
yeah. Cooper, he for some reason he doesn't do well on the road. So I don't know. I might say DPJ has a decent game, but I mean they are playing the Bills, so it's
his
gonna be
Bills
tough.
team has to be angry.
Yeah,
They have to be angry.
it's gonna be a tough go for Cleveland. But to your point, Chubb's probably pissed off himself just from the lack of 100-yard games he's had.
In the last 4 weeks. He's
Yeah.
only had one.
hmm
It could be a very interesting matchup on the ground at anyway, if you let Singletary and Chubb go at it. Next game, Eagles 8-1 at the Colts 4-5-1. In Indianapolis, Philadelphia 7-point favorites, over under at 45.5. Jeff Saturday. Have you bit off more than you can chew yet? Philadelphia's defense seems scatterbrained versus Washington last year, but it still ranks. They're tied for first in yards per play, and they're second in average passing yards allowed per game at 177. So they all that, and they still didn't really damage their ranking. They also have an 8.31 sack percentage, which is sixth in the league. So we're talking about Dallas, and we're talking about these other teams that sack. Philly is quietly in the top 6. So
Yeah.
time for Matt Ryan. That O-line has a big task ahead of them for
Mhm.
Indianapolis. They cannot. I mean, we saw what happens when you don't allow pressure to Matt Ryan. He does good enough. If they can hold the pressure from Matt Ryan, this game goes over. Like solidly over. Like probably both teams in the upper 20s.
Right.
But if that's not the case, we've seen Hassan Reddick be not as effective, not as angry, getting through the line, attacking as we have the last 2 weeks. But just as much as that happens, you still have Fletcher Cox and TJ Edwards at the linebacker position. You have a whole bunch of these rushers that they can cause some hell. So Colts have to continue it. Like I said, O-line can't allow sacks. They have to control the pressure. Ryan has to keep his throws fast. I think quick releases are going to be a key here because this defense can hound you. Big change. Indianapolis was tied for third in yards per play last week, which is a vast improvement from their 28th season-long ranking in that same category. So if you can do that, if you can balance your yards per play instead of throwing the ball away, wasting, I mean, it comes down to JT and it comes down to the passing game. Bottom line, spread the ball and use JT at times. Philadelphia's defense is generally pretty good against the run, but it's also Jonathan Taylor. So short plays to me screams more Campbell and Pierce. I know Pittman is like a 10-yarder, so I don't hate any of the wide receivers for the Colts in this game, despite how one of them or two of them are going to be guarded by Darius Slay and James Bradbury. And then CJ Gardner-Johnson's floating back there. So too deep isn't good for Matt Ryan. I'm going to sit Sanders. Indianapolis, I didn't realize this. They're second this year in yards per rush attempt allowed at 3.8. They don't allow, their defense has been decent against the rush. Very good against the rush in some cases. Last week they held Josh Jacobs to 3.2. So they quietly are doing okay. Start Quez Watkins, I think, is probably safe start at this point. I'm looking at him for a flyer myself with no Dallas Goedert. Obviously Smith and Brown go to town. Indianapolis culture, if you have to play any of them, Pittman, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I like Pierce. I like Campbell's been seeing a lot of targets. Pittman is just like a shoe-in for 8 to 10. Take one, pick one, fly with it.
Yeah.
Anything else for you?
I like Campbell. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Campbell, yeah, to your point, has been getting a lot of targets lately, and Matt Ryan really seems to like him. I don't know what it is, but he's been almost like the wide receiver one on the team, which I won't officially say that, but
Right.
yeah, I like Campbell. Pittman, he is the bigger body. It's kind of surprising that he has, and I'm honestly, as I'm looking at this, I'm very surprised to see he has 1 touchdown on the entire year, but also they've been a bad offense for the majority of the year. So it's not that crazy to see. But anyways, yeah, I would probably play Campbell, obviously JT, and then yeah, from a Philadelphia standpoint, I don't know that there's too many people I'm sitting, but I guess the only thing about Sanders, like that is a very good stat to bring up, and it's probably a good idea to not play Sanders, but the addition of Hurts running kind of opens things up a little bit. So I don't know how Indy will handle that.
Yeah.
I don't know what other teams they've played that have a running quarterback this year. So we'll see if they can hold Sanders under 3.8 with the sort of wild card of Hurts.
Yeah. I mean, Hertz is a bit of a wild card and normal. Let me see what his let me see here. Hold on. Yeah, he hasn't been rushing much his last 5 games.
Okay.
28, 23, 10, 27 for his last 4. Before that, he had 61 against the Cardinals.
Mm,
Last 4 games, only 1 rushing touchdown, and he hasn't crossed 30 yards on the ground.
okay. And then to answer my other question,
And that includes against the Texans, which they should be able to run against. So
yeah, the Colts have not played a running quarterback team yet. This is the first instance of that.
that's
And it,
that's going to be a good juxtaposition for them.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that. It's almost one of them. If he can move, they're not going to give it to Sanders either. They're going to keep doing design plays to get Jalen Hurts running the ball,
mhm.
or RPOs. I guess that's another option. But very good points there. I got the Eagles in that one. I think we both do.
Yeah.
I don't see how. I mean, unless the defense absolutely shuts them down, like the Colts defense comes out and pulls the Commanders on them to the point where they can't get on the field, stay on the field, whatever it is. That's the only way I see that one. Next game, Jets 6-3 at the Patriots 5-4. New England 3.5-point favorites at home. Over under is 38, which is tied for the lowest on the slate. Well, I mean, these are 2 teams that don't move the ball very fast if they move it at all. Jets are still figuring out their backfield and their receivers and their offense and everything. It seems the most trustworthy receiver is Garrett Wilson. We know that. Should be stashed. Probably can be started. I would imagine that he's at least a flex option for most leagues.
Yeah, he had a decent game
Mm-hmm.
against when they played the Patriots last time. Whether Belichick adjusts, I don't know, but he was playable last time they played him.
Yeah, and he has a repeat. I mean, in the repeat of that game is just his 4th in a row. Where what do you have 100 and some yards and 6 catches against him last time?
115 and yeah, six catches, 7 targets.
Yeah. Conklin might be the number 2. Depends if Corey Davis plays again. If Elijah Moore decides to, it's not even Elijah Moore. If they decide to throw to Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios could once again groundhog his way out of the ground and take a catch or a run for 30 yards. Who knows? I like Conklin as the number 2 in this game. Just my opinion on it. Zach Wilson, I think he needs to throw enough for anything more than that to be fantasy relevant. Jets pass on 60% of their plays on average, which is amazing because I just said Zach Wilson doesn't play a lot or doesn't pass a lot. He doesn't pass enough. So it's almost like that's like the balance, and no run game means you have to pass and it doesn't work out a lot. Anyway, it's gone up since Brees left. I mean, it was almost 50-50 as like when Brees was in. And then over the last 4 weeks since Brees left, it's just been, we have to pass. They've been playing behind a little bit more. That's to be fair. But all in all, I mean, 60-40 isn't like amazing in any sense.
Yeah, I mean, the last time that these two teams played, he did throw it 41 times, but only completed it 20 times.
Yeah, that won't win you football games a lot, and it didn't last time. So,
Yeah.
Jets only complete 33.6% of third downs this year, which is 28th in the league. Like, if you're like, think about what I just said. They pass it 60%. He doesn't pass enough, and then they don't complete third downs. It's like a giant like math equation that adds up to they're not moving the offense. For New England, they need a win to stay in the AFC East fight. There is a 3-dog fight right now, and the Jets
Yeah.
are barely hanging on. And if the Jets lose here and the Patriots win this and then lose more, it's just over for both of them, and it's between the Dolphins and the Bills. So New England is 7th in points allowed per play at 0.293. Sounds like a small amount. That's per play. It's actually a pretty good indication that they give up some big plays at times. But they're a top 3 league in terms of opponent completion percentage. The Patriots, the Bengals, and there's one other team that just continuously rotate between 56 and 57% opponent pass completion percentage. And every week it goes changed. So I just labeled them now as best 3, and it rotates as it rotates. New England gives up the 7th most points to tight ends, but is restricted to wide receivers. They're giving up the 4th least wide receiver points per game at 16.2 fantasy points per game. Yeah. Start Conklin, start Jacoby Myers, start if Parker doesn't play, I like Nelson Aguilar. Ramondre Stevenson, I shouldn't have to tell you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna sit Wilson based on that because I think, like you said, Belichick makes changes. It's working on the wide receivers for the most part. Their entire game against Chicago was mostly on the ground. They've only lost one other game since then. They're lined up for it to be a tough day for Zach Wilson. And I like the Patriots in this game by like 5, 6, 7 points.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think without Davis, yeah, Wilson is probably a sit. If Davis is in, maybe. But yeah, beyond Wilson, like Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, Conklin, obviously,
I'm on Mims. I always forget about Mims.
yeah. Yeah, they don't have a lot of wide receivers beyond Wilson that are talented enough to really do something. So yeah, they could be hurting without Davis for sure.
I don't know what they need to make this team better. It's an offensive problem. Like I said, they create pressure naturally on defense.
Right.
It's something that they've been doing all year. When you blitz less than 15%, but you're creating pressure on almost 30% of plays, your defensive line is naturally gifted. It's something on this offense that the Jets are just turtle pacing up the field. If they're turtle pacing up the field, like I've seen games of Uno with more intensity than their offense at times. So like it's not an impressive offense. But again, like against the Bills, right? You go ahead and all of a sudden you have to you put your defense on this pedestal. You let your offense slowly find its rhythm during a game, slowly being the imperative term, but you end up winning against a team you arguably shouldn't. So
Right.
I think that's going to be the key for the Jets to stay in it, is if their defense can crank it up. Problem is, you really can't crank up on Ramondre Stevenson. Like, there is no rush game other than Josh Allen, who already has attention for the Bills. There's a difference here because now you have to throw the ball, or maybe I'll run it, or maybe I'll do both. So that, in that sense, I think it makes the Patriots a more difficult beat than the Bills.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that.
It's a juicy take. Hot take. Hot
take.
take. Hot take.
Oh, hot, 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 hot.
Next game, Rams 3-6 at the Saints 3-7. New Orleans at home, 2.5-point favorites. Over under at 39, and this is the second
Round 2. Fight.
of our host v host games. Rams have no Cooper Kupp. How do they respond? Badly, more than likely. I don't know what the percentage of their total yards is, but I'm pretty sure he has, and I'm not kidding, 35% of the team's yards. Did I see that somewhere on Twitter? And that was he by himself has 35% of the team's yards.
Yeah, I completely buy that. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was more.
I have to. I didn't look into it before this because I wanted to just see if you would believe it. What the hell is happening? Okay, moving along. I don't know what that was. I'm there. You there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I literally don't know what that was. So
I didn't hear anything.
You didn't? Really? Maybe the video didn't then. That'd be really good. I just got a huge bunch of noise in my ear and I don't know what it was from because that's how computers work. And I hate computers. I love computers. I'm just kidding. I want to find out if the Rams anyway, Rams have to find a way to get by with no cup. It's going to be Robinson's Skowronek. Do you have any fancy in playing Van Jefferson at all this week?
He's boomer bust. No, I don't think that. I think there's other options I would rather play over Van Jefferson. He's always been like, if they can get him 1 or 2 deep balls and a touchdown, he's worth it. But otherwise, I'm out.
Okay.
And he's been trending in the opposite direction that you want to see in terms of snap percentages. Week 8, 53, week 9, 35, week 10, 28.
Yeah.
Week 10, he did actually get a touchdown. So he was 10.2 points and a half point PPR. So not bad, but yeah, I don't want it.
All right. Let me real quick. Let's see if this is correct. Somebody said this. Okay. Well, it might be good if I use the right amount of or the right function here. 812 yards for Cooper Kupp. It is 2589. It's 32% by himself. That's just too. Where are those? That is so many yards for this team to find. Like, where does this go? You almost have to run the ball, which they still don't do. It's bad. There's many targets to go around. I would not be surprised to see Higbee have like 12 and Darrell Henderson to have 5 out of the backfield from nowhere and score a touchdown in the passing game. Robinson's going to have 6 or 7. Like they have to go somewhere. I don't know. For the Saints, Andy Dalton named a starter. He's got to limit turnovers. New Orleans has the worst turnover margin in the NFL at negative 1.2, which means that on average per game, they are giving up an extra possession to a team that they don't. Actually, it's really 2 possessions. They lose one and the other team gains one. So it's hard to win games doing that, especially if you're not throwing for like 500 yards, which they're not. They average 130 yards per game allowed on the ground. The Rams have no steady run game, so that's not really much of a concern. But again, if you don't have Cooper Kupp, you have to find ways. Do we see the Rams run it more than 7 times? They could. I don't know who they'd use. Kyron Williams is officially active. Why not? Why not? What are you going to do? Win a game?
Yeah.
Like it sounds super offensive, but the Rams do. This is a team that made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Super Bowl team.
They won the Super Bowl last year.
This is 8 months ago. 8 months ago, we went Rams. And in the offseason, everybody in LA went to recess with their Super Bowl trophy and their team bragging rights. And they came back from recess to this sad, sad team that can't do anything on offense but throw it to Cooper Kupp. Now, come week 11, Cooper Kupp is in a hospital bed. Not really, but quick recovery, by the way. Prayers to Cooper Kupp. Yeah. The best part about New Orleans is that they actually defend air attacks very well. They're allowing 195.9 pass yards per game, which is 6th in the league. And that could be a problem. Rams, I think that the key is bringing play action, which means you have to run the ball early and run it often. And you are going to probably, because you don't do it, lose out in the first quarter. You're going to have to give up the first 20 to 25 minutes of the game to run the ball. Start building play action, because if you don't start getting that anywhere, don't force pressure. Don't sack Matt Stafford. Wait for him to throw it, because he ain't got Cooper Kupp to throw to.
Right.
This is they have the second lowest play action rate in the league. Like that's bad. Start Landry if he plays. I didn't see him on the injury report. That doesn't mean anything. Sit Higbee. You know why? Because the Saints guard tight ends really well. Fifth in the league versus tight ends. They're allowing less than 8 fantasy points per game to tight ends. The irony is that like their second best receiver right now is Juwan Johnson, who is a tight end. So I'm going to take New Orleans in this 19-17 because of what I just told you. So what is your take on this one?
Yeah, the Rams are gonna struggle. I have Rams 11, Saints 16. Very
so you have
under.
this, okay.
Yeah.
You have 16-11. This is the Saints team that we saw put up 34 points against the Cardinals, so they can score.
They can. They've
They
just
just
been
have to
really
do it.
struggling lately.
Oh yeah, they have. Next game before we go to break, we got about 7.5 minutes left. Lions 3-6 at the Giants 7-2. Giants 3-point favorites at home. Over under at 45. Detroit allows 416 yards per game. It's bad. They gave up 21 first downs per game over the last 3 games. Actually, pretty average. It's not too bad. The Giants average 20 per down, 20 per game, 20 first downs per game. I'll say a sentence right eventually. But the Giants are 23rd in yards per play, which kind of shows more of their offensive patience. They wait until second. They don't get a lot of first downs to first downs. It's like second or third downs where they convert and they get a new set of downs. Saquon should have good upside opportunity. Detroit gives up 160 yards per game on the ground. Wouldn't be surprised to see him have 130 and Daniel Jones to have 40 to 50, somewhere around that. I know my bet for Saquon will be 110 plus. So just in case you're a betting man like me, I'm gonna log on to the old FanDuel and place a good parlay. Detroit offense is kind of still trying to find its footing. I think that's the best way. They traded away Hawkinson. I would assume they're probably punting this year, given the fact that the Vikings are rip roaring through the NFL right now. They were gifted with a win to the Packers 2 weeks ago. They fought hard and came back against the Chicago defense, which, like we mentioned earlier in the show, is not great at one thing right now. They're just bad at letting the run happen. Detroit 25th in the league at converting third downs at 4.7 per game, which is not good. They allow 12.6 passing first downs and another 9 on the ground. So take your pick. But if you're doing 4.7 to allowing 21, that doesn't add. Not very good. I guess there's a difference in down there still, but whatever. They have to win the first down battle. I think that's going to kind of be the key. If they get more first downs than the Giants, this could be a Detroit win. It's only 3 points, and for good reason. There's still some offensive weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown went for over 100 yards last week. Daniel Jones could easily, in response to this, throw for the most yards this season. I could see 240, 250 for him, which is like average for a lot of other quarterbacks. But I think his highest in the year is like 212. I'm going to start Slayton. You're not going to start Bellinger because he's not playing. Start Slayton. I don't like Swift in this matchup because he was touchdown dependent last week. He had 8 fantasy points, and that's with the touchdown. If they're not going to let Swift run the ball and they're only going to pass it to him like 3 times, he has to get a touchdown. I'm not a fan of that right now. Again, let him run all over my prediction if he wants to. If he has 25 carries for 150 yards, but I want to see it. Money where the mouth is. Come on, Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Anything for you from this one? I like the Giants in this. I do.
Yeah, the Giants, like, not only is Daniel Jones a game manager, but the Giants themselves are game managers, and that is how they're winning games, is they are controlling the clock and the amount of times that they have the ball and the other team doesn't. That being said, the Detroit team obviously gives up a lot of points, so I have a weird sneaky suspicion that if they try to do something where they are throwing the ball more than normal, it may throw things off a little bit for them. It's going to give Detroit more opportunities to get the ball and try to score, and they can score. They can put up points. They're just a terrible they have a terrible defense, and it's basically just always like, how many points can you get? Well, I'll try to match that. And
Yeah.
I guess the point being, this is going to be a little bit of a different game for the Giants, and I don't know if that's going to throw things off from a Daniel Jones perspective, who this is where I really lose faith in him, is when he's trying to throw the ball. So if
Yeah.
that's what they start to do in this game and they don't stick to their normal game plan, I could see the Lions sneakily winning this. But hopefully the Giants are smarter than that and they don't get baited into it, and they play their game and everything. Yeah. The Giants are the better team here.
Yeah. By a country mile, I think. That's
Yeah.
maybe that's just there's been sparks from the Lions, but they haven't been anywhere near as consistent, and that's just relying on the consistency. I still think Daniel Jones can throw better than everyone thinks.
Yeah.
I really do. His completion percentage and all that, it screams he's a better quarterback than everyone gives him by yardage. So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, in order for the Lions to win this game, Amon-Ra Swift is going to have to play. I don't know why they're not playing him. Is he really hurt? Are they not telling us what the heck's going on there? If DJ Chark is back, that could be a huge benefit. But yeah, Amon-Ra Swift, Jamal Williams is also a very good option for them and has been solid. So they just need to get their weapons going. And I don't know what the heck's going on with Swift.
It's a shame. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we got 7 games left. A couple of them are kind of open shut as far as I'm concerned, including the first 2 when we get back. We have another host to be host. We're going to give you a 5 fantasy flyers at the end, and we're going to probably touch on a little bit of some waiver wire trade deadline deal stuff. So, Taylor, I'll let you do the sign off one more time. Do the little thing. Do the thing I like so much.
We'll see y'all on the other side.
Welcome back to part 3. So I'm just gonna start throwing it in there. Part 3. Next games, we're gonna finish out our Week 11 preview. 3-7 Panthers at the 6-3 Ravens. Baltimore's a 13-point favorite in this. The over/under is 41.5. Helps when you're at home and you're just a better team. Carolina has to be close to shipping it in. Like, just has to be. Baker Mayfield will start. Good news for him, Ravens are not good against wide receivers. So they give up 190 yards per game to wide receivers. They are much better against the run. Deontay Foreman will have his work cut out. I honestly suspect it could be closer to like a 50-50 game here between him and Hubbard. I'm seeing a little more of a mix. Probably not 50-50, but 65-35, 60-40s in the cards. Baltimore is relying on their depleted wide receiver group. Mark Andrews was trending upwards. He's still obviously listed as questionable. I think he plays. Carolina's 27th versus running backs. They allow 21 fantasy points per game to running backs. So Gus Edwards, if he plays, start him. Otherwise, I think Kenyon Drake is probably the 2. My start is Terrace Marshall. More targets, more playing time, bad wide receiver defense means why not? I'm going to sit Foreman, but very hesitantly because he still can run for 100 and some yards. Ravens win by a mile. Anything else from this set of you?
Yeah, I guess the only thing for me is unless I still see Foreman as the number 1, but obviously Chuba was hurt a little bit there. But it's possible they want to just kind of make sure that these guys stay healthy, especially since they may try to do something next year with them.
Fair points. Next game, Commanders 5-5 at Houston, 1-7-1. Washington is 3-point favorites, over-unders at 40.5. Commanders coming in fresh off that statement win against the Eagles. Is it Wentz? Is Wentz back, or is Heineke playing?
It's still Heineke, yeah.
Okay, I that was a legitimate question I put in. It's not like which ones. I didn't know which one. Run game galore. Start them all for Washington. And it's like Pokemon and catching them all, you should start them all. Gibson, go for it. Robinson, go for it. The only one I guess I'd be hesitant on is J.D. McKissick because he hasn't done anything all year. Houston allows 5.2 yards per rush attempt, which is 29th in the league. Houston has the second lowest opponent passing touchdown percentage at 39%. So go after the targets. So for that's basically Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel. Those two both. I mean, McLaurin more so with Heineke. Samuel's around the 5.5 to 6 expectancy. McLaurin is expected to see somewhere closer to 8, a little over 8 on the average board. Houston has the new wide receiver. He picked up Amari Rogers, who was waived by Green Bay. Do you think he plays anything larger than like 20 or 30% in this game? Because I don't think he does this week. I think you might see him next week.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't see him really taking over for Cooks, Nico, Moore. Yeah. I don't know that I'd.
More came from the practice squad and the punt squad, which is an interesting fact. And they also just picked up another side note to this. They picked up Benjamin off waivers.
Yes, they did.
And there is big talk about Dameon Pierce actually having to split a substantial amount with because he's been RB 20, 13, and 19 in the last 3 weeks.
That's the thing that honestly concerns me more. Yeah.
And I think you will see some, I don't think this is going to be a good staple week for either one of them, but I think Pierce has to bounce back from his disappointing week last week, from his last 3 weeks, really. He's still going to be a wide receiver. He's still going to be a running back one, but it's just not going to be like the dominant 90% snaps that we saw. Chase Young is out for the Commanders, not returning yet. That's like the 3rd week in a row that's happened. He's ball faked us there.
Yeah.
Start Gibson, start Robinson. I'm going to sit Cooks on this. They didn't show me anything impressive with him last week, so Collins and Moore are just as good as Cooks, which is what makes me think Amari Rogers is super playable. Not like in a fantasy aspect, but I feel like eventually hit the field. I picked him up in Dynasty because if he becomes anything, there's a chance next year I could have a $4 wide receiver 2 or something, which would be great. But it's a dart throw, and I know that. So, anything else for this one? Honestly, I can see Houston winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of say that to some degree every week, but this one more so. Yeah.
Yeah, the Commanders are kind of in there. This has trap game for the Commanders written all over it. Because they're like, oh, we just beat the best team, one of the top 2 teams in the NFL. Here come these Texans, like, and Davis Mills throws for 300 yards, and Pierce runs for $120, and they each have 3 touchdowns or something stupid.
Yeah.
Next game, Cowboys 6-3 at Vikings 8-1. Dallas is 1.5 point favorites in Minnesota. Over under at 48. This is the 3rd of our. Why won't it work? It's not working.
Finish him.
There it is. My sound was off. It's the 3rd of our host v host games. Dallas in needs of a bounce back win, and Minnesota now is kind of similar to the Commanders. They're like, oh, here we go. Okay, we got a pep in our step.
Yeah.
And then Dallas's defense has to step it up a little bit themselves. They have to be a little more attacky at the line. Get through to Kirk Cousins. I said to you in pre-show, if there's one spot where the Vikings could probably get better, it's on the O-line, because it seems like their defense is creating a good amount of chaos in the backfield for opponents. And Dallas isn't immune to that either. Let's be honest. It looks like Zeke is going to return. It's probable. He said he was going to wear a brace. I think he said that yesterday or the day before. And now hearing McCarthy and Jones seem like they're feeling he will play.
Mm-hmm.
I like Zeke returning. Dak has to have more communication with these wide receivers. Both his interceptions, which probably saved that game last week, happened on miscommunications. At least one of them would have probably turned into points. So you can't have that happen with CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb had a pretty good game against the Vikings last year. I don't know if that's going to be quite as easy this time around. There's no Amari Cooper there. I like Michael Gallup in this matchup a lot. he's not going to have. First off, he's on the opposite side of the field as Harrison Smith, who we know is the dominant safety. Cam Dantzler, it's not Cam, it might not be Cam, but he is been sneaky as a cornerback. So that's the only concern I really have. Minnesota on the other side, they couldn't be playing any better as of late. We know that the come from behind win versus Washington in the fourth quarter 2 weeks ago, the barn burner that was overtime win versus Buffalo. I think this is another one of those staples where if you pull it off, you're looking at probably the best team in the NFL. And I don't think the Eagles can do anything against the Colts that will change that. There's a plethora of receivers Dallas has to focus on. One thing to point out, as I said to you, Justin Jefferson had 2 catches for 21 yards. The last time these two teams played, he was absolutely locked down by Trayvon Diggs. It will probably be the exact same matchup. I don't see it being quite that lopsided. And even if it does, you have Hawk and Thielen who are still there. So just an important thing to note out that there could be a less than 100-yard game for Justin Jefferson on the horizon. So I'm starting Gallup. I don't have anybody to sit here. I don't think there's any person who you need to worry about sitting. Start Pollard, start Zeke, start Gallup, start Lamb, start Jefferson, start Thielen, start Hawk. Is there anybody else? Anything else from this game?
No, you pretty much covered it all.
It's gonna be a good game. I'm
Yeah.
going to sit and watch it because I'm a fan of both teams. But more importantly, because I think it's gonna be a good game, unless Dallas flops like they did last week. You get 4 quarters of Dallas's fourth quarter last week. It's not gonna be interesting.
No, yeah, I think this is going to be a very good game. I almost wonder if it goes over. I mean, that's a pretty high over under, but especially with 2 pretty decent defenses, but also very good offenses. So I have a sneaky suspicion it could go over.
Okay. What's your score?
What is my score? Okay, Cowboys 23, Vikings 28.
Oh, so you got Vikings winning.
I do.
28-23. I took Dallas 31-27. I like the history that Dak has. This is not a much other than Hawkinson. This isn't a huge and Jordan Hicks. This isn't a hugely different Vikings team than what the Cowboys beat last year. That doesn't mean
So you
anything.
also have this going over.
Oh yeah, by a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's again the Vikings allow pass yards. It's been that way all year.
Yeah, I think regardless of the 2 decent or pretty good defenses, it's going to be more of offense really driving this game.
Mm-hmm. What can the offense do? So
yeah,
I like it. Next game, Raiders 2-7 at the Broncos 3-6. Denver 2.5-point favorites over under 41.5. The Raiders look bad. That's just the best way to put it. They lose leads. They slow second half offense so bad. They have like the least amount of oh my god. They have been 31st in the league over the last 3 games in second half scoring. They're just bad. It's just not. They don't score. I don't know. They are in the second half what the Commanders were in the first half for the first 8 weeks.
Yeah.
The Broncos are without Judy. I think Sutton is a must start if you got him. Like the biggest lock and load of the week right there. Not a flyer by any means. Pretty common sense. But Dulcich still highly involved. He only had 4 targets last week and only caught 1 of them. But he's playing 90% of snaps now. So go get yourself some Dulcich. Kendall Hinton and Julius Virgil, like the definition of flyer. I like Hinton more than Virgil because, like I mentioned earlier in the show, there's a snap count difference there that just can't be made up. Without that touchdown, Hinton outscores him, and that was the only catch that Virgil had last week. So Hinton also has more of a rapport with Russell Wilson. Denver is second over the last 3 games in opponent completion percentage, withholding, not allowing opponent completion. I wrote that wrong. 57%. This one, assuming Devontae Adams plays, it's going to be a big task because Devontae Adams he's usually good for like 70 to 80% completion on his own. So comes down to the rest of them. Start Sutton, start Hinton. I like Melvin Gordon in this. Thought I'd ever say that. No, he had 5 targets last week, caught 4 of them, passed down backs. He can be okay. He also only carried the ball a couple times less than Latavius Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Start Dulcich. Rams. Raiders 27th in allowing fantasy points to tight ends. Foster Moreau, again, especially if there's actually any sort of lockdown on Adams, Foster Moreau becomes an absolute necessity start. Sitting for me, Josh Jacobs hasn't been quite as effective the last 3 games. This isn't the defense that you probably will see him turn it around. He's still going to be good for a few catches out of the backfield, which is the only exception I'll make to his fantasy outlook. I think he's going to have a few catches. Maybe ekes his way into the touchdown, finds himself carrying the ball inside the 3 or 4 yards. He might fall forward and score 6. Other than that, I have nothing else from this game. I have to like the Broncos because you have to pick the shiniest of 2 turds.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not even really fair to the Broncos because, like I said, they're not going to have Judy. They don't have their best running back. They don't even have their entire offensive line. They're still on like their 3rd string offensive line. It's not even really fair to call the Broncos like a shiny turd, but they aren't. They don't have the record to be otherwise. So, who's going to get the bragging rights for 3rd in the AFC West? Anything for you from this one?
It's going to be an ugly game.
All right, that sounds about. That's about what I kind of wanted to hear. So
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Next game, Bengals 5-4 at the Steelers 3-6. Cincinnati 4-point favorites in Pittsburgh over under 40.5. There's no Jamar Chase again. Maybe it matters. Pittsburgh's defense has been better, but TJ Watt specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Minka Fitzpatrick will play despite is it appendectomy?
I don't know. I didn't see.
Appendicitis. He had appendicitis. I'm pretty sure he is playing. Despite that, Google that. ESPN had it up today. So,
appendicitis.
I was right. Cincinnati looking to redeem itself from the overtime loss earlier this year. You remember that? You remember that pile of crap? Let's flash back all the way back. Okay, let's flash back. So way back in week 2, there was an overtime game where they missed a bunch of field goals. Okay. It was not good. I don't know if you remember that one. Evan McPherson missed a field goal at the end of regulation to win it. He missed the game-winning field goal in overtime, and then the Steelers end up kicking the field goal as time expires at the end of overtime. If you don't remember that, it's because you didn't want to, and that's okay. It was Cincinnati they've averaged 36 pass attempts over the last 3 games to 23 rush attempts. Those are 7th and 22nd respectively in the league. So there's a little bit more passing going on. Remember that Joe Mixon game? That's
Right.
in there. Cincinnati also has the 2nd highest percentage of passing touchdowns in away games at 83%. 83% of their scores come in the air in away games. Line up that Hayden Hurst and Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. Cincinnati top 10 in many passing categories, though. Pass play percentage, completion percentage, yards per pass, but bottom 3rd of the league in most rush statistics, such as rush play percentage and rush yards per game and yards per rush attempt. So, Mixon, maybe? I don't know. You're not going to not play Mixon after that 55er.
Yeah.
But you're not getting close to 55. Let's just be careful. Pittsburgh needs to improve the offense and continue their consistency we saw last week, or didn't see because there were a lot of other games. Pittsburgh's 28th in red zone scoring at 46%, 31st in yards per pass with 5.5 yards, which means there's limited deep balls. They're not throwing it deep. They're 6th in yards per rush allowed with 4.1 yards. If you hold the rush game and you continue their interception rate, which is like 6th in the league, TJ Watt, Bengals O-line, it all mixes for a decent game again, which you can do with Kenny Pickett. You did it with Mitch Trubisky in week 2. Do it again. Start Boyd. Pittsburgh allows the most fantasy points to wide receiver in the league. For that matter, start T. Higgins. But I like Boyd too this week. Sit Najee Harris. He has a sore knee from what I've been hearing about. And Jalen Warren is supposed to see more than what we didn't see. He said he was going to get last week. So does that make sense? No? Good. Yeah, like Mike Tomlin was like, Jalen Warren will be more involved. Then he wasn't. Now Najee has a sore knee, and he's like, well, he's going to be even more involved than he wasn't involved when I told you he was going to be more involved last week, but he wasn't involved. You hear me? So anything else for you from this one?
Nah.
Yeah, this is a game that unfortunately I think the Ravens, just due to the schedule and the inter league matchups or inter division matchups, I should say, I feel like the Ravens are going to like having a good opportunity to run away with the AFC North here. Next game, Chiefs at the Chargers. This is our ball game. Chiefs are 7-2, Chargers 5-4. Kansas City 5-point favorites in LA, over under 52. This is not really an away game for anybody. We know the Chargers fans are like 40% of the stadium at max. Kansas City moves into, this is a high profile battle, I think, between two really good quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. We know their stats. Herbert makes some really good throws. Hasn't been able to throw it quite as deep, quite as often because of the lack. If you get even just Mike Williams back, this team looks better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make or break the team. It's going to make or break how well the offense can flex. Put it that way. Stage is set for I put Moore or Tony. It's really Kadarius Toney, a breakout game. It's just there's no Juju. There's no McCole Hardman. Pacheco is also a really good option here. The Chargers are 30th versus the league and 30th in the league versus the rush. So they don't stop the rush at all. Pacheco's also been seeing like 50-some% of the snaps. So Mike Williams, if he trends in the right direction. Keenan Allen, game time decision as of what I heard 2 hours ago. It's questionable in all intents and purposes. Eckler will be a popular passing option, but again, Kansas City's fourth in rush defense. I don't think that he really rushes the way that it seems. He's mostly a pass back. He rushes. Isaiah Spiller's involved in the rush. Don't hate any of it, but don't expect a whole lot of ground stuff from Eckler. Passing, yeah, of course. Palmer and Carter, of course, become bench options if both Allen and Williams return. I got the Chiefs in this one. I don't know how the Chargers exactly out-muscle the Chiefs here.
They'd need both Allen and Williams back, and even then, like, are they a bit rusty?
I don't like Allen if he comes back. He's my sit if he plays. Because he was last time he was questionable with a game time decision, and he played. He played for 20-some% of the snaps, had 2 catches for 15 yards. Nope. If I fall into that trap again, like. And it's not good as a fantasy owner when that happens twice in a row. You're like, there it goes. Moving along, last game, Monday Night Football, 49ers at the Cardinals. San Francisco going into Arizona means good upside for George Kittle.
Yeah.
Arizona's bad versus tight ends. He's a good tight end. San Francisco, by the way, 8-point favorites in Arizona. So DeAndre Hopkins has his work cut out for him. Over under at 43.5. Debo also looking for a big bounce back after his 2-for-6 game last week. Arizona were they getting Marquise Brown? I saw him practicing, and I know they opened up the window. I don't know if he's actually going to play. If he's not, I love Rondale Moore.
Yeah, I got the impression he isn't, but yes, he was taking part in some drills.
Okay. So that makes me love Rondale Moore. He actually becomes my start for this game, although I also don't hate the start that I wrote here. San Francisco is 6th versus the tight end. So, withhold a high expectation for Trey McBride in his debut. Elijah Mitchell, likely to continue to see his at least a good chunk of the carries. We talked about this on Tuesday's show. Looks like most of the passing downs out of the backfield are McCaffrey's, and the rushes are like 30% McCaffrey, 70% Mitchell, and that's based off 1 week and nothing else. So let's see how that goes. San Francisco allows only 3.6 rush yards per attempt, which is best in the league, but Arizona, they don't really rush a lot. can point out that James Conner had 2 touchdowns last week. If they get him more involved and keep getting him more involved, it may not be beneficial this week. My start is Rondell Moore now. My other one, Juwan Jennings, who, despite all of what happened last week, still saw himself with a sizable target load. I do not hate the depth piece that is Juwan Jennings here. I think he had 5 targets. 4. I know he caught 4 passes. He seems to be the wide receiver 3 based on snap counts too. He's also in like the 70, right around the 70% for snap counts. Sit McBride. He's touchdown dependent, so sitting is, if he gets the touchdown, you're going to be fine. If he doesn't, me. Anything else from this one for you? San Francisco all the way. Not a whole heck of a lot to go into depth about with that. The Cardinals need to like chuck it if they're going to have a chance with this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, McCoy most likely playing. I won't say that's definitive, but McCoy playing doesn't really hurt necessarily the wide receivers fantasy days, I think,
Right.
but definitely hurts the Cardinals as a whole. He doesn't have
They're-
the rushing upside that
Yeah.
Murray has. So
The team
Or-
ceiling drops.
exactly, yeah, and the 49ers have a good D, so yeah, it's I would favor the 49ers for sure. I mean, obviously the spread favors them pretty heavily, but
And for good
I
reason.
think, yeah, and for good reason. But yeah, I guess that's all to say that I think that Arizona's options, offensive options, will still have a decent day.
It worked out last week. So that is it for our week 11 preview. Kind of went through those last 7 games kind of quick, but wanted to get some time in for this waiver, these 5 fantasy flyers and this waiver/trade segment. We'll go right into the 5 fantasy flyers, because why not? I'm gonna let you read yours first. I want to see who you got, because you keep asking me and I don't ask you.
All right. I still don't have my 5th, but I have Brian Robinson, and I went with Ben Skoranek. It was either him or Allen Robinson. I think Skoranek definitely is much more of a flyer than Robinson, and yeah, we'll just see what happens there. Kadarius Toney, you touched on him a bit. And then I would say Gabe Davis still qualifies as a flyer. He's not the number 1 on the team. He doesn't get the crazy usage, but every once in a while he goes off. So I'm hoping maybe he does again. All right, so for number 5, I'm gonna go Kenyon Drake. And this all kind of hinders on whether Gus Edwards plays, but I'm hoping he doesn't, I guess, in this case.
I was about to say, because honestly, that's one I have to reject that as your substitution, because he's not really a flyer if he plays. Gus Edwards, I mean.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna say Gus Edwards. I'm just saying Drake if Edwards doesn't play, which probably means I should go with something a little more safe, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, he's putting his lead on the line, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Lead on the line.
Muppet.
My 5 fantasy flyers. Kadarius Toney's number 1. That was the first one. He's starting in my dynasty league. Tyler Lockett and Chris Godwin for me are on bye. I'm starting Kadarius Toney. I'm also starting someone else down the list here, because why not? Actually, I almost put Devin Duvernay on here. Not going to do that. Not yet. It's a good matchup. Great matchup for him. He's starting in my dynasty league, but he's not my 5 fantasy flyers. Carolina bad versus all things wide receiver. So number 2, Quez Watkins. No Goddard. I think he's going to get some targets. Will it be a lot? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Worth a stab. That's the point of a flyer. You're taking a flyer on him.
Yeah.
Number 3, Terrace Marshall. I brought him up. This is a good opportunity. Could he do nothing? Yeah, maybe. Could he do something? Hopefully. Number 4, Darius Slayton. You brought him up. I would have don't know why you didn't go with him. Maybe it's because of the passing that you don't think Daniel Jones can do. Maybe I'm going with it. Number 5, I think, is going to surprise you. There's got to be something in that arsenal that is not a wide receiver for those Rams. Darrell Henderson. I hate myself for it, but I also want it to be true so bad because this team can't not run the ball without Cooper Kupp. I just don't think so. I just don't think they can't. Does that mean Cam Akers couldn't run for 80% of it? Absolutely, he could. But I'm still going to take the stab on Henderson.
He's probably
So-
the safer bet. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
looks
I
like-
like those. I also don't know why I didn't go with Slayton, but is what it is.
You like Gabe Davis more. That's why.
I think so. Yeah.
That's exactly why. And I would like Gabe Davis too. I don't know if I could fully agree with him on the flyer status.
I mean, he's not consistently.
He's averaging like 7 targets a game. The fuck are you talking about?
Is he? I can swap him out. I
No,
didn't think he
leave
was
him-
up there.
I'm up for a challenge, my man. I'm up for a challenge. Okay. It makes up for your Skoranek. Okay. So Skoranek is a huge, that's like a huge fly. That's like flyer. So I like that. Good
You're right,
list.
He is getting more targets than I realized, Davis.
Yeah. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you go.
The problem is he's only catching like up until last week he was catching only like 2 or 3 of said targets.
You suck.
All right, lay it on. Keep coming.
Last part of this show, we got about 7 minutes left. We're gonna just talk about some trade for candidates. This is kind of like a preview to what we're gonna see next Friday on that show, where we're gonna go into hopefully a good 15-20 minutes of just chatting about all of these trades, where we value some of these players for the rest of the season, and some pieces that you should probably attempt to get as we hit the trade deadline for these fantasy leagues. So I'll start out with mine. I just said his name, Devin Duvernay. There's no Rashad Bateman there. The rest of this schedule for the Ravens is not. It doesn't cause me caution owning a wide receiver. He has rush ability. He has punt and kick return, which again in our league we get points for that, but in a standard league you don't get that unless it turns into a touchdown. If it does, makes a little bit of a difference. He sees the field an awful lot. That can turn into a lot of crucial points down the road. And I like Devin Duvernay. He's probably on a lot of waiver wires, to be honest. And if somebody picked him up after Bateman's injury, they would have gotten an immediate great game against Tampa Bay, where he had the rushing touchdown, had 4 catches, something like that. And just somebody who, especially in keeper leagues, I would be going after. I don't hate him on some of these 10, 12 team leagues, but he's like a low level. He's like my number 5 out of the names that I came up with. So your turn.
Okay. I'm going to throw out Justin Herbert because I don't think he hasn't had a phenomenal season fantasy point wise, but he's actually playing pretty decently. And if Allen and Williams are actually coming back, if somebody doesn't realize that, you may be able to snag him. I'm sure they're also kind of frustrated, and if you can offer something that, like, I guess I won't go into who you could offer, but I don't know. I'm trying to look at his schedule. He actually has a decent schedule up until the sort of playoff area, fantasy playoff area. So he could get you to the playoffs, but in the playoffs, I mean, he should still be fine, but he probably won't have the upside that he has leading up to that. But yeah, with Williams and Allen coming back, I think that Herbert could finish the season strong, and hopefully this opponent doesn't realize that.
One would hope. My number 2, we talked about him. I'm not going to go deep into it. Drake London. Schedule lines up, plays the Steelers. They got to play someone else in there who I forgot, who's just really bad versus wide receivers. Buy low on London. All I got to say.
All right. He may even be on your waiver wire. Kamara. I know he's obviously a big name that may be hard to get him away from people, but he's had a bit of an up and down season, especially last week. And I'm pretty sure, trying to pull up their schedule, they actually finish with an easy schedule.
For running backs, I'm pretty sure too.
I-
That looked
yeah.
the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're up against the Falcons, Panthers at some point. So yeah, they have a couple of easy weeks there. And then just looking at Kamara, his points, the last 2 weeks he's only had, and this is half point PPR, 7.7 and 6 points. So somebody may be
Can't
a little
continue.
frustrated with him.
Yeah, can't continue. Somebody's
Yeah.
gonna sell him. My next one's DeAndre Swift. That no one's more frustrated than that DeAndre Swift owner. Jamal Williams been better. He has to pick it up, and he's not going to stay there. He's not. Jamal Williams is not going to be there next year. He's a free agent. DeAndre Swift is the future of that team. Hurt or not, his game has to step up. His numbers have to buy low on DeAndre Swift.
I can definitely get behind that. Might as well take a shot.
Mhm.
I'm going to throw out Deontay Johnson. We brought him up, I think a couple weeks ago, or sorry, a couple shows ago, as someone that has a ton of targets, or a ton of yards and whatever, but they should regress to the mean in terms of a positive regression for this player, touchdown wise. Now that being said, obviously the young rookie quarterback kind of has his ups and downs, but I think brighter days are ahead for Deontay Johnson, and I'm sure the owner is frustrated with him.
Yeah, and sometimes that's exactly what you need is a frustrated owner to just want to sell low and get something for him, especially if they're in the playoffs or if you're both on the edge. That's a big
Right.
key. And Pickett has to get better throwing the ball. It's going to happen, or they're going to draft someone else or go some other direction. So, and I think he's going to. Last one for me, Gerald Everett. I was back and forth between him and Parham, because Parham's on IR for the next 2 weeks. The next 2 games are very tight end friendly for the Chargers. Just like you were talking about Justin Herbert and Allen and Williams, if there's any shakeup there, Everett will probably be the baseline for the pass game. I like Everett as a tight end option. Again, probably available on a lot of waiver wires. If he's not, shouldn't be a hard one to acquire. You shouldn't have to give up a lot. But that is someone who I would probably be targeting if I had to make trades. 60 seconds left. What you got, Taylor?
I'm going to throw out James Conner. I know you're not super high on him, but
Same thing with Swift. Has to go somewhere.
Exactly. And he did last
week.
week, which may make it harder to go after him. You may have missed the boat on him, but they don't have Eno Benjamin. They're going to have somebody start kicking it off on running back, running. I don't even know. We'll just leave running.
Okay.
The guy is drunk, but there we go.
I'll leave that there. Again, Thanksgiving show coming up on Tuesday. We pre-recorded. Hopefully we'll have some fun things. We're going to go over the Thursday games. I'm going to sign us off right now. Taylor, for Derek, listen to some Bob Barker. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Bob Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.